Hey everybody, Melanie Rose here with a brief but informative update on all the planetary positions and directions. If you meant to tune into the daily aspects, that's another video that probably went up around the same time as this one, and I encourage you to go find it. Today is Tuesday, November 23, and the last couple of days we didn't have any fresh solar aspects to look at. And I've wanted to give a periodic breakdown of the planets, their positions and directions, just so that we could have a broader awareness of what's going on astrologically, and this seemed like a good time. But first, how can we use this information? First of all, give it a look and a listen and notice what piques your imagination and gives you questions. This intuitive approach often helps me learn something new about astrology in general and helps me to see more clearly events in my own life. Second approach, pay attention to the details you know relate to your own chart. Perhaps your ruling planet is in a sign that gives you trouble. That's worth looking into. Or maybe there's a planet currently moving through one of your signs that puts you in a mind of something that's going on in your life. Check the relationship of these planets and signs to their positions on your natal chart, and this may also bring you to some greater understanding. The third approach is also very intuitive. Just let the information in and let your heart and mind do the rest. The subconscious deals with these symbols in its own way, independent of our conscious mind. So, without further ado, here is sort of a snapshot that shows where the planets are today and what directions they are moving, and a little bit more information in general in addition to that. We start with the sun. No, we didn't start with the sun. We start with the moon because it's the one that's closest to us on Earth. The moon is in Cancer today. The moon moves very quickly, so it makes ingress to the next sign every 2.5 days. That's a 2.5 day transit. The moon is the Earth's only satellite, and it never appears to move retrograde, only forward, which is great because can you imagine experiencing periodic retrogrades of the heart and home? Pure drama, folks. Let's be thankful that's not a thing. Of course, the moon rules our inner life, right? And our domestic sphere. So who we are at home, who we're at home with, and where we are when we're at home. The sun is in Sagittarius. And in truth, the sun is in motion, but it doesn't, like we perceive it from here, really orbit the Earth. Rather, the Earth orbits the sun, and since we are always moving forward on our elliptical orbit around the sun, that quote-unquote planet never appears to move retrograde either. Thank goodness. It takes 29 days for the sun to transit through each sign. And the sun, of course, represents our outer life, who we are, the person that people, who we are out in the world, the person that people get to know when they meet us for the first time. Next, we have Mercury. Mercury is moving direct right now in Scorpio, and it will make ingress to Sagittarius this week. Mercury in Scorpio makes our minds intensely focused, even obsessed on learning more internal truths, whereas Mercury in Sagittarius will bring our attention to the broader range of interests. It takes 28 days for Mercury to make a transit through one sign, unless it goes retrograde, and then add the number of retrograde days, which is about 3 weeks, to that 28. Mercury goes retrograde approximately once every 4 months. And of course, Mercury is about our intellect, specifically our day-to-day thoughts, communications, and plans. Venus is moving direct in Capricorn right now, and it will turn retrograde in that sign in a few weeks. I'm going to say retrograde soon. Venus in Capricorn tends to make us serious about our career and financial ambitions, valuing relations with people who support us in reaching our goals. When Venus goes retrograde in that sign, it's important to be on guard against burnout, especially in our work sphere. Capricorn isn't very good at taking breaks, and Venus's style is really more about relaxing than working, so a balance will have to be struck. It takes Venus 29 days to transit through a sign, except when it goes retrograde. Then add the number of retrograde days, which is 6 or 7 weeks, to that 29 days. Venus goes retrograde once about every 18 months, and of course, Venus is the planet that represents love and money for us, or in other words, how do we relate to those people and things that we value the most. Mars is currently direct in Scorpio and will make ingress into Sagittarius in a few weeks. That's coming up. When Mars is in Scorpio, we're motivated by a desire to explore our personal depths and less likely to avoid serious issues. Mars in Sagittarius, on the other hand, will find us more motivated by our high ideals, bored with routines, and ready to expand our focus. It takes Mars 29 days to transit through a sign, unless it goes retrograde, then add the number of retrograde days, about 10 weeks, to that 29. Mars only goes retrograde once every 2 or more years. So, and of course, let's see, 29-day transit. And of course, Mars represents our personal sense of initiative. What gets us fired up, what drives us, what our passions are. And also the asteroid Chiron is in retrograde in Aries at this time. It will turn direct in the same sign toward the end of this year. Chiron in retrograde points to the internal healing we need to do. And under the influence of Aries, we're given extra power to gain insight, heal past traumas, and sort of level up in terms of our mental and emotional health. Chiron's transits are variable because of the shape and size of its orbit, but it takes about 4 months to transit each sign. Unless it goes retrograde, then add about 5 weeks to that. So this is a 4-month transit. The retrograde lasts 5 weeks. And of course, Chiron represents how to heal. Those are the inner planets, and what we say about the inner planets is that they're more of the personal planets. Those are the smaller, more dense planets, astronomically speaking, but astrologically speaking, they're just the planets that are closest to us, and so they have more of an impact, like, on us personally. Jupiter is sort of a in-between planet. I put it here with the outer planets because it's one of the large outer gaseous planets, astronomically speaking. But it's really kind of where our inner life connects with our outer life, because Jupiter expands our thinking, expands our feeling, expands our ability to connect. And with that said, so what I want to say is that the outer planets are more social planets. These have more to do with our relationships with ourselves and the people right around us, whereas the outer planets have more to do with our relationship to the world at large, the human collective, bigger things than just ourselves and our homes. Okay, and with all of that said, Jupiter is direct in Aquarius right now. It'll make ingress into Pisces in about 6 weeks. Coming up. Jupiter has been in Aquarius since last December and has expanded our interest in terms of our place in the human collective, encouraged us to become more fair, and rewarded our efforts at being inclusive. Jupiter in Pisces is set to expand our sense of compassion and connection to spirit. Our hearts are open wide to the spiritual experience, but we will require more time and space to retreat and assimilate what we have taken in when Jupiter enters Pisces. Jupiter spends a minimum of 1 year in each sign. Unless it goes retrograde, then add 4 months to that. 1 year transit. 4-month retrograde. And Jupiter, of course, is our planet for growth and opportunity, positive expansion, good luck. Saturn is also direct in Aquarius, where it will still be when it goes retrograde again next June. In fact, Saturn has been in Aquarius since last January and will not make ingress to Pisces until March of 2023. Saturn in Aquarius has us with a critical eye toward the stewardship of our goals, dreams, and aspirations. Social structures, friendships, and community involvement are highlighted. Saturn's transit through any given sign lasts about 2.5 years and spends about 4.5 months in retrograde every year. 2.5-year transit. So as you can imagine, a lot of babies are born with their Saturn in Aquarius right now. And Saturn, of course, represents the structures we maintain in order to support ourselves and the stewardship or our responsibility to maintain them. Uranus is in retrograde in Taurus at this time, and it'll still be in Taurus when it goes direct in January. Uranus in retrograde brings about more internal changes than external, and Taurus's influence puts a spotlight on our relationship to our material foundations. So our relationship to the earth and to the material things we value, mostly because of the comfort they bring us, is called not so much into question as into transformation at this time. Uranus takes about 7 years to transit any sign and enters retrograde for about 5 months every year. 7-year transit, 5-month retrogrades. And of course, Uranus is our planet that reminds us to do things differently. So it brings about a lot of change in our life. And again, Uranus in retrograde, those little changes we're making from day to day to streamline, they're mostly internal. They happen in our emotional and intuitive heart, and also in our domestic sphere. Neptune is in retrograde in Pisces at this time, and it will turn around and go direct in just over a week. Going direct next week or so. During this 5-month retrograde, we have probably undergone some good deal of personal, psychological, and spiritual upgrades. When Neptune goes direct again, we'll be able to use those new insights to better understand and relate to other people. Neptune spends 14 years in each sign and goes in and out of retrograde many times during a transit. Neptune will not make ingress to Aries until 2025. And let's see, these transits last about 20 years. 15 years. And the retrogrades are 6 months of every year. Of course, Neptune points to our relationship with the human collective, or the human connective, as I have put it here, or, where we stand in the flow of the human spirit. Pluto is direct in Capricorn at this time. It will go direct in the same sign retrograde in the same sign at the end of April. Pluto in Capricorn puts us to work on those transformational changes we wish to see out in the world. When we go into retrograde next year, the focus will turn to noticing which parts of those transformative efforts aren't working so that we can personally shed them and move forward on the work of improving society. Pluto takes around 28 years to transit one sign and spends approximately 6 months in retrograde every year. 28-year transits. Imagine all the babies born under a 28-year Pluto transit. And retrogrades are 6 months per year. Of course, Pluto represents death and rebirth, endings and beginnings, sort of the extreme ends of the story, but also like extreme depths of intuition and emotion. And there you have the planets, which signs they are currently transiting and what direction they are moving, plus a little extra information regarding the length of transits and retrogrades in general. I hope this information was helpful to you all. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments section, and I will do my best to respond in a timely manner. Thank you all so much for tuning into this special episode. My name is Melanie Rose, and I will see you all back here tomorrow for more daily aspects.